From Isolation Studios, it's Richard Krause.
Welcome everybody to In Isolation With, the talk show where we make a connection without actually making contact. I'm Richard Krause and I hope you're staying happy and healthy. Direct from the southwest of England, actor James Purefoy joins us via Zoom. Now, if you're a fan of HBO's Rome, you know him as the joyfully decadent Roman general and politician Mark Antony. Perhaps you were a fan of The Following, which saw him play a college professor turned serial killer and cult leader for 3 seasons opposite Kevin Bacon. The versatile actor has a list of credits as long as my arm, including the film he joins me to talk about today, Fisherman's Friends. And no, it's not about the cough drops. It is a good-natured crowd pleaser about a real-life singing group from Cornwall in England who went from singing at the local pub when they weren't on the water trying to make a living to producing the biggest selling traditional folk album of all time. Purefoy plays Jim, one of the leaders of the group who was initially skeptical about their chances for success outside of their tiny village. Now, when we did this interview, he was sitting in his garden and proudly showed me all the produce that he's been growing since the very beginning of the pandemic. The broad beans looked delicious. But that also means that from time to time, you'll hear a bird chirping or a bit of wind. It's not your speakers, it's just nature on Purefoy's property. Let's get to know James Purefoy.
All I don't understand is why anyone would want to part with their hard-earned cash to buy a record sung by 10 fishermen.
Your songs transport the listener to distant shores.
Congratulations on the film.
Oh, thank you. It's fine. It's a lovely little film.
It is. It is a lovely little film. And now I'm told from my reading that these days you're looking for jobs that you find something new in, something you haven't done before. What was it about the script for Fisherman's Friends that appealed to you then?
Okay, singing. That was a whole new ball game for me. Never done a musical. Never. It obviously sound marvelous in the shower, don't we all? But I'd never actually done that in front of people, and so that was a reason to do it. I think also I was interested in the story because it comes from the West Country, which is where I come from, where I am now. The West Country of England, the southwest of England. It's not an area of England that gets a lot of attention in terms of movies or characters. There's, I think, maybe one TV series that is set down there that is, it's called Doc Martin, with Martin Clunes. But apart from that, you very rarely see anything in the West Country. So I was just I wanted to fly a little bit of a flag.
And this movie really paints a picture of Port Isaac and its people. You shot in Port Isaac. I can only imagine that helped with the atmosphere and maybe building the character a little bit to actually be there.
Yeah, you know, what happened was that we went down there and we met with the Fisherman's Friends. There's a pub there called the Golden Lion. All our digs, the places that we'd been billeted in, were maybe just a 2-minute crawl from the pub door. So when we were turfed out very late at night, having had something of a lock-in rehearsal, right, we managed to get home. So it was, and we were there off season. And you know, if anybody knows anything about English country towns in the summer, they're always rammed with tourists and youngsters and people on holiday and vacay and stuff. So, but we were there out of season, so it was very, very quiet. So we were able to go about, do our business, and try and paint the story of these extraordinary, hairy, bottomed fishermen. I could say bottom. It's a very English word. It doesn't start with A or end in S, and it helps sell the story a little bit. But that's what they are. They're just big blokes who did an extraordinary thing and managed to take these shanties that they were singing, these sea shanties, and turn it into an enormously successful album. And then they went on to play the Glastonbury Festival. They backed up Beyonce the year she played. I don't know what she made of them. Must have been hilarious. And they're still going strong. They've sold millions of albums, and they give a concert still every Friday night on the dock there in Port Isaac. They've raised £500,000 for charity. And they're just a remarkable men, but really, they're fishermen. That's what they are.
I thought
what I heard the old man say. John Kanaka today.
Just out of interest, what kind of music were they singing?
The Rock and Roll of 1752.
What I liked about this movie so much is that it's about what makes personal contentment. It is about finding a way in life that works for you. There's not an ounce of cynicism in this movie anywhere. And I think that when we look around in the world and the dumpster fire that the world has turned into in recent years, that a film like this comes along and I think it brings with it just a feeling of goodwill. And I think that's important right now.
I think you're absolutely right. I think people come out of that film feeling like, oh, yeah, we are members of the human race.
Mm-hmm.
And not just are we members of the human race with just looking after our own tiny little block and our own tiny little family, but actually we are part of a much wider community of people. And I think one of the reasons it was very successful here in this country is that it came out maybe 2 weeks before Brexit happened. Where the country was feeling incredibly fragmented and divided and polarized, and it was getting very nasty. And yet people were able to go and see a movie that was about a community and about a small village and about friends and love and relations and the things that bind us together. And we weren't concentrating on the things that drive us apart. And I think that's, what we need to be doing, not just in movies, but in politics as well. We really need to find a way to come together, because being driven apart like we are doesn't help anybody.
No, and I really thought that this pandemic, being worldwide, being that we are all connected in a way, I've done a lot of these interviews with people from all over the world, and the thing that has really stayed with me is that we're all doing exactly the same thing. Most of us are self-isolating, and we all just want the same stuff. We want our families to be safe. We want food on the table. We want what everybody wants. And I thought, well, this will be the great connector, and then masks come along. You're supposed to wear a mask, and people are protesting in the streets that they don't want to. And it seems just as divided as it was before. And that, to me, is the disappointment of all of this.
I totally get that. I see those. We don't get that so much here. People tend to be pretty cool about wearing masks. I think people understand. And maybe that's what it's about. Maybe it's about an education thing. I don't know. I think people in Europe, and certainly oftentimes, obviously, in lots of places in the United States and Canada and places, that a lot of people understand that I'm wearing a mask not just to protect me, but to protect you. And you wear one to protect me and yourself. And when I look at those key workers, when I look at those health service workers who are wearing those masks 12, 14 hours a day, and then you get people getting wound up and upset about having to wear one when they go to Walmart, it makes me very sad. It makes me, you just go, come on, guys, it's just a mask. It's not that big a deal. It's not a muzzle. It's just to keep people safe. You have to wear clothes as well. We all have to wear clothes. We all have to wear seatbelts. There are things that we do to protect ourselves and other people. And mask is just the latest addition until this is over.
Yeah. Well, you've lived in the last number of years. You've lived all over the world. Didn't you not just finish the shooting in Mexico City, a large project in Mexico City?
I was shooting in Mexico City for 7 months. I've lived in New York for 3 years. I was doing the following there. I've lived in Rome for 2.5 years. I've filmed on the polar ice caps and in the jungle in Ecuador and Brazil. I've been around.
Do you think that that's maybe where some of this empathy comes from? Because I think once you travel and once you get out and go beyond your own borders, you start to understand that we're all sort of essentially the same.
Yeah, but of course, that old cliche, there is only one race, the human race.
That's right.
Really, we just need to think about that a little bit more. If we actually concentrated on that idea, then we would get along a lot better, everybody, and I think we'd have a lot more empathy. But empathy as an actor is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I need to understand, however odious the character I'm playing, I need to have an empathy. I need to understand, put myself in his shoes. So if you don't have empathy as an actor, you're in terrible trouble.
Well, and you can't ever judge the character. That's
Let the audience judge the character. You know, if you were playing Hitler, you know, if you're playing somebody deeply unpleasant like that, you have to find a way to go, well, he thought he was right. He thought what he was doing, he had good reasons for it, or what he thought were good reasons. So you've got to try and get inside his head and let the audience do the judging. But if you start judging him, yeah, it's not going to work, is it?
I've read in an interview where you say that you have a natural propensity for going over the top. And your character, Fisherman's Friends, is fairly staid. He's a stoic man. Did your director, Chris Vaughan, have to wrangle you in for this?
No, I think when I say a propensity for going over the top, I think if the character has a propensity, I'll run with it. I'm not Mark Antony in Rome. He's over the top. You know, he is an over-the-top, larger-than-life character. I'm not going to play that down. I also, you know, I love giving audiences a good time. And I think sometimes I think if audiences see a character having a cracking good time and, you know, lip smacking the over the top, then they run with it and they kind of enjoy it. They go with that. But I think also, you know, obviously, if you've got a character who's much kind of, he's a very centered man, Jim, in Fisherman's Friends. And he's honorable and he's kind and he's a good person, but he does have a tremendous amount of risk. He spends a lot of time out at sea. He's on his own a lot. So he, but I think it, when I say I have a propensity, given the chance, I will go over the top. And then it really is up to a director to try and wrangle me back. But also on the opposite of that, if there is a character who is a quieter man, then you have to pay attention to that as well.
So there's a couple of quotes here I just wanted to throw at you, because you say in one interview that you were once described as a stealth celebrity. And when you were asked about it, you said, I couldn't be happier. And how is that and why is that?
Because I love the job. I love the acting. I like the stuff. The older I've got, the less interested I am, I have to say, although this is very pleasurable because you're clearly a very smart man, but the less interested I am in the finished product, actually. And I've become so inured and disappointed to what marketing people and advertising people, what they've done to projects that I've been in, where you go, I can't believe you even watched it, and yet you've come up with this poster. What, do you know anything about this show? So I think the one becomes a little cynical about that kind of thing, and I think the answer to that is just to really be present between action and cut, and that's the thing. That's the only really, really pure bit of the job that I'm really interested in. So I think being a stealth, that's what I love doing. The fame, keep it. It really doesn't bother me, as long as if I can keep doing what I'm doing, and not be vastly famous, then I'm really happy with that. That's okay.
Do you think that your early years working on a pig farm, working as a porter in a hospital, kind of gave you a grounding in the real world that you have taken forward then? Without doubt.
Certainly working. The pig farm, not necessarily, because really my only companions on that job were pigs. But the hospital, I worked in a hospital for 2 years when I was 16, and I'd lived in a very closeted world of English private school, boarding school, where we were very cloistered away from the world. And suddenly I was working in a public hospital where you would see people, in a single day. I could be there at somebody's bedside with, they have a thing called in the olden days, a thing called a crash trolley, which is what happens when somebody has a heart attack. You have to bend for leather, get this trolley to somebody's bedside so they can put the paddles on and clear. You can see somebody die in the morning and then be witnessing the birth of a baby in the afternoon. It's a tremendously leveling job. You meet, as you must be aware, in England we have a public health system, so every hospital is full of everybody, all the different kinds of people we get, and you could spend time with people who are cancer patients, and even if it's just the trip from ward to the physiotherapy department, sometimes they just want to chat to somebody who isn't a doctor or isn't a nurse. You know, they just want to talk about the weather or the football or what's happening outside the hospital, and you were the conduit for that. So yeah, that was a really big formative experience for me, those 2 years.
So if you listen carefully, we are hearing birds chirping behind you.
Mm-hmm.
It is idyllic where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there for the pandemic? Have you been isolated there?
Yeah, no, I have. And it was, you know, the pandemic has, as you are aware, as everybody is, how horrific it has been for so many people. People who've lost people who, the ones you think about now are the ones that, you know, there may not be as many people dying, but this disease leaves people just ruined, you know, health-wise and financially if you don't have a public health system. So I'm aware that that has been going on. Where we are, we have a very small community. There's 4 houses in this village. There's a pub over the field, but that's kind of it. So it's a very rural area. We've been down here for 4 months, and I have done an incredible amount of work on my veg patch, as you can see.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's all kicking off here.
Wow.
But I think it's been one of the greatest times of our lives. You know, I've got 3 young kids, and my wife is here, and I never get to spend time with kids. So it has been for us very good.
Are the kids enjoying being in one place? Did they travel with you when you work?
No, they sometimes do, and yeah, they were in Mexico with me for a lot. And my daughter, who's 7, she misses her friends. You know, obviously because she's a 7-year-old girl. But the twins, who are only 3, as long as you keep them busy with a transformer and Lego, they're happy.
Now that we are in this era where there is no production, there's no live theater, is there a show or a play or something that really sticks in your mind? Something that you've seen that because we can't go see anything now, I'm interested in hearing about people's formative experiences with the theater.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, for me, I always have a moment. When I see a really, truly great performance, there's always a moment. It doesn't, you know, acting is a curious thing. Actors, we're very good at faking it, obviously. But every now and then, there is a moment, isn't there, when you're watching somebody on stage and it's like lightning, isn't it? Where you go, oh, there, right there, that was Richard III. That was him in all his evil glory, Ian McKellen. John Malkovich in a play called Burn This with Juliet Stevenson blew me away. Mark Rylance, the god of gods in terms of stage acting, the thing, and you never disappointed with Mark Rylance. Everything he does is remarkable. So yeah, those moments that you see on stage and you go, in that moment, what was going on, I have no idea, but that was the moment that I saw that character in all its 3-dimensional textured glory right in front of me. Janet McTeer in Doll's House, Helen McCrory in Medea. The list is endless, but I'm a keen theatre goer, so it's really hard, this business of not being. And when we're wondering, will it ever come back? Will this be an art form that disappears?
It's such a shame that experience is gone for us now for a large extent, and I don't know when it will come.
Yeah, for the time being. I mean, I don't know. I keep asking myself a question and keep forgetting to get the answer. What is it about pandemics? When do they finish? You know, the First World War in 1918-19 killed 50 million people. How did that finish? Did it just kill off everybody it was going to kill?
Right.
But presumably at some point it dies out. They all do, don't they?
Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
No, right. So this will come, and this will go, but it'll just take time, maybe.
And the birds will
be a bit sanguine and a little bit accepting of where we are. You know, if you were in London in 1941 and the Blitz, you'd think this was going on forever. And 4 years later, I mean, things take a long time.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying that, birds were chirping in the background. The leaves are swaying on the trees behind you. So there is
using my my broad beans that have just come into fruition.
So there are signs of hope out there.
I think there are.
James, thank you so much. What a pleasure to speak to you.
Well, it's been lovely speaking to you too. Thank you so much. And believe me, nobody ever does research. So it's really nice talking to somebody who's done the research. Thank you.
I thought I heard the old man say.
That was James Purefoy, all the way from his home in the southwest of England. Fisherman's Friends, his new film, is available now on VOD wherever you legally rent or download movies. My thanks to James for spending some time with me today, but most of all, as always, my biggest thanks goes to you for tuning in. I'm Richard Krause. Stay safe and happy, and we'll talk again soon.